Hey guys, welcome back to the Bruce Williams channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the coolest sumo and the Seiko that I'm enjoying most in my rotation. I have a few awesome divers. I've got a couple different 5KX limited editions. Obviously, I have the Sumo. I have a lovely Nemo turtle, orange sunburst that's very striking. And then I have the crown jewel or the classic, upscale Seiko diver, the Marine Master 300. And I'm really enjoying the mix here, the mix of case shapes, the mix of colors. And Seiko's a brand, it gets some flack, obviously, from us watch enthusiasts, but it's a brand that I just don't want to quit. I don't have a desire to quit. I can bash them from time to time for doing silly things. I can moan and groan about the price increases over the years. That's a natural thing, I think. But man, they come out with some great watches. And I would say this Sumo that we're going to be talking about today, I think this is my favorite. I enjoy this more than the limited Marine Master 300 in my collection. That without a doubt is a nicer watch, nicer movement, nicer finishing, nicer dial details, nicer tactile elements and components. But I'm enjoying the Sumo more. And why? Why am I enjoying this $1,000 watch more than a $3,000 watch? I think part of it just comes down to the comfort, the flow on wrist. The Sumo is one of the most comfortable designs, diver designs from Seiko, which doesn't really make sense to me because it's big. Not only is it big, it has a long lug-to-lug dimension, which is usually the most important dimension to consider when you're looking at fit and comfort. But there's something about this that flows, and that paired with the quirky nature of the design, there is some strength, I think, to Seiko's contemporary offerings. I know I've been very drawn to some of the vintage designs, the Willard, the 62 MAS, the Tuna, the Turtle. There's some awesome ones, really awesome designs out there. But I think I can't talk. The Sumo is just as strong. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think maybe 20, 30 years from now, there's going to be Seiko enthusiasts that go, you know what, the Sumo, that is a classic design. That is a great design. That's one of the best, because I think it is. I mean, it is a little quirky. It is a little out there. And yes, if you look at me, I'm kind of a big guy. I think about food probably a lot more than I should. And when I look at this case, I kind of see a banana as I look at the side profile, just with that curvaceous flow, the tapering at the ends, and then those lines of delineation for the different finishes. It kind of looks like a banana from the side. And then I look at the bezel, which is partially shrouded here within the sculpted case, and it's tapered. It kind of looks like a Reese's peanut butter cup to me. So silly food analogies aside, I think it's a cool watch. It's a cool design. It's very comfortable. It's surprisingly comfortable, really. And it just has playful elements with that texturized dial, with the use of red, with the use of gold. And it ends up just being a cohesive unit that's attractive. And guys, if you live near an authorized dealer for Seiko, go check out a Sumo. Take the time. Go see them in person. Maybe if you go to a watch meetup, a local watch enthusiast gathering, and you see a Sumo on another, watch enthusiast wrist, check it out. Ask them if it's okay if you check it out in person, because it's a really good model. And honestly, like I said in the beginning of the video, it's taking more wrist time away from my Beatmaker and that Nemo Turtle, the Marine Master. And I don't think it's coming down to, I guess you could say, recency bias. It's not because it's the most recent pickup from me. I think it's the strongest, and that's coming through with my desire to put this on wrist and enjoy it when I want to wear one of my Seiko divers. Now let's take a look at the loom shot here. This is one of the more satisfying elements of Seiko dive watch ownership, as a lot of you fellow Seikopaths know very well. And guys, I really can't tell here if this white chapter ring is loomed or whether it's just reflective and it's picking up the ambience from the Lumabrite glow, coming off of the applied markers and hands and being reflected slightly from the underside of the sapphire crystal. I can't tell if it's just picking up that light or whether it's emanating a little bit of light itself. I take my black light here, my dark light, and it honestly, it kind of looks like it's slightly loomed, but I really can't tell. It just looks really good in low light. It's satisfying. And another element I really enjoy, as I mentioned, is the dial texture. Seiko is very talented at working with form, at working with shapes, and doing it to an intricate level of detail work. And guys, from afar, I mean, it just kind of looks like a flat dial, and then you angle it, or you get up close and you see some reflections, and then all of that nuance comes to play, and you see the ridges, and you see, just how crisp the printing is on that undulating surface. And then again, you pair that with your gold accents, your hand design, your use of red, and it just ends up being an awesome, satisfying product. And I recognize I probably sound biased here in this presentation, like I'm trying to sell you on the Sumo. I'm not. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I own it, and I tend to be more favorable to the watches that I personally own. It's easier for me to get excited about them rather than if I'm just borrowing them, from a fellow watch enthusiast or from a brand or from an authorized dealer. But that being said, let's talk about negative elements here as we wrap up the video, because this is far from a perfect model or a perfect watch. I would say there's two things that stick out to the first-time experiencer of Seiko, especially if they have experience with Swiss watches or German watches before they jump into the Japanese scene. That's going to be bezel action and then the feel of the bracelet. The bezel action on this one is nicer than a standard production Sumo in my experience, but it's still pretty classic Seiko. And you get a rather hard click and then a softer click, and you can really notice that as you make the positional, changes throughout the bezel. So I like the grip. I'm not complaining. I'm used to Seiko. Guys, I've had so many Seikos over the years. I am a Seikopath. I know what to expect. So I know what reasonable expectations are, I think, for the brand. But if you're not familiar with Seiko, I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed by the bezel action, as well as the bracelet. Perfectly comfortable, nice and thin, very adjustable. I like the design. I think it works with the case shape, but a little bit, rattly. Pressed metal clasp and a little bit of flex and give, I think more so than a Swiss competitor at around $1,000 or a German competitor at around $1,000. So guys, those are two areas that I think should be mentioned as areas for improvement, but overall, this is a really fun model. Now, it's a limited edition, limited to 1,991 units. This is celebrating the 30th anniversary of Seiko in Thailand and the Phaikatan celebration. It comes with a really cool box, a far nicer box than I'm used to when it comes to Seiko. I have it on the desk behind me. It's bold, it's bright, and included in the box is an additional silicone strap that I think is a nice touch. Now, I will say, I'm not trying to scoff at the inclusion of an extra strap, but I think there's a little bit of a missed opportunity on Seiko's part to put a red silicone strap with this release, because you've got such nice use of red here on the bezel and on the seconds hand, obviously on the box, very bold. And so I think red would have been a little bit more fun, but not as in your face as, say, some of the other limited editions have been in previous years. I'm really thinking about the Thanos or the Thanos that I owned a couple years ago. That thing was just absolutely wild, but also very cool and very interesting. This one I think is just as exciting, but a little bit more palatable and attractive, if that makes sense. Last thing I forgot to mention, sapphire crystal. I could do without the Cyclops. It's not the best, but it's not the worst, and I'm not going to complain about its inclusion, but it might be nice if that was omitted in the future. But that brings me to the conclusion of the video. These are just my thoughts as an owner of Seiko's awesome Sumo, my favorite Sumo, and the watch that's hogging wrist time from my other Seiko divers, and also other watches in my collection that cost far more than this one. And I don't know, it's always a nice thing when you stumble upon these types of releases to where you can really enjoy them and bond with them. And so this one is not going anywhere anytime soon, even though some of the other Seikos might be flipped in the near future. So let me know if you have any questions. And if you're looking for this particular watch, I'll put a link to the site that I bought mine at. I'm not sponsored by this site. I've got no real affiliation with them. I bought my Marine Master from Sky Watches, and then I bought this Phaikatan Limited Sumo from Sky Watches. They have Casio, Seiko, Orient, Citizen, quick DHL shipping, and just fair pricing, good selection. So a good authorized dealer recommendation in the description. Thank you for watching today. Have a great day, and see you guys next time.